Good evening, folks, and welcome to JayTalk. I'm Jay, your host, and of course we have the Love Machine, Nick from the Nick Drop.
Love Machine. You're welcome, ladies. Thank you very much. Don't forget to tip your waitresses on the way out. Oh, that deserves one of these.
There you go.
Oh my God, Love Machine.
The Love Machine.
Well, I tried.
You know.
That's what I'm saying. Well, what's going
There you
on,
go,
brother?
dude.
How was your day, man?
My day was good. Busy.
Yep.
Busy. Just phone after phone after phone.
Oh, well,
It happens that way sometimes.
that's the way it works. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in the world of IT. So.
IT. Customer service. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
No, sir. Yes, sir.
It's funny you make that. Before we move on to what our show's about, it's funny you talk about the yes ma'am, no sir, no ma'am, yes sir, because there was a post. I don't remember. I think I've read it. It wasn't on TikTok,
Right.
but there was a post where people were talking about it's offensive now to say yes sir, no ma'am, no sir, yes ma'am,
Are you kidding me?
because it's gender specific.
Oh my God. Wow.
I'm sorry. We recently did the whole yes ma'am, no sir, yes sir, no ma'am type.
The old school respect.
Right, exactly. But we how it's gotten a lot of negative connotation lately and a lot of negative, feedback. We had that episode, I don't know, a month or two ago. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just thought it was funny that we just did an episode about that, and now somebody comes out and like, oh yeah, that's really, you can't say that, and it's like, what?
And
okay,
see, it's really
whatever.
funny because in the world, I'm starting to feel uncomfortable about saying sir and ma'am.
Really?
Yes. Unless they are older than me, which ain't many out there like that, but unless they're older than me, I don't feel uncomfortable.
Okay.
And it's a habit thing. It's habitual for me to just yes, ma'am, and
Yeah.
it does offend some ladies. Don't call me ma'am. And I want to respond with, so should I not open the door for you?
No, you shouldn't.
No, you shouldn't. And they're going to walk in front of you and they're going to open the door just enough for them to squeeze through and let it slam right in your face and let you grab it.
Right.
I've had that happen on dates, first dates.
I know. You told me about that. I still don't know why you went on the date. I would have turned around, went and got my truck and left.
I should have. I sure should have.
Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
And so, okay, this is really a horrible thing to say, but I'm not going to change who I am for somebody else. They're not going to change who they are for me. Why should I change who I am for them?
Right. And how long can you change yourself before you can't anymore?
Well, and here's the whole thing. Even if I do change one thing, are they ever going to be happy, or are they going to constantly be asking me to change more?
I can dispute that. When in any relationship, and I'm talking about dating, getting into a relationship, not family and friends, just a relationship with your significant other. When is the most exciting part of that relationship? At the very
Generally
beginning.
when you first, yeah, exactly.
And at the very end, when you're been there for 30, 40, 50 years and you've learned and you've grown and at that point, if you're together that long, you got respect for one another.
Yeah, 100%.
And then once you have that and you have the love in your heart for that person, it's natural for you to want to care and do things for them and love them and be, all those things. I think that's when the most exciting part is, the first 6 months to a year, and then after 30 plus years.
Okay, so you bring up a good point. Okay, so this leads into our episode. Part of the reason why I kind of spurred the thought.
Right.
is, when you're in love. And then what's the definition of love is what we're going to be talking about today.
Yep.
But when you're in love, both people will continue to change to make the other person happy.
Yes.
I disagree.
So let's define what you mean by change.
Exactly, because sometimes I call it you compromise. You set a boundary or you compromise on a certain thing because they're willing to compromise as well, and you meet in the middle.
Yes. And that's with
And
any relationship. So,
it is
yes.
within a relationship. And that's called true love, because if you're both willing to meet in the middle to make it work, then there's love on both sides.
Right.
So you can
And
call
that,
it change. I call it compromise.
okay. And it's just, excuse me, it's just different phrasing. So,
Yeah,
yes,
it is.
I think, when you first meet somebody, it's all exciting and new and you're trying to impress and you're really not who you really are. And then somewhere down the road, you become who you are. And that's when it either the wheels fall off the wagon or it gets even better. In
Right.
some cases, it'll get better. In a
Right.
lot of cases, it doesn't. Now, not nowadays.
Right. Right.
Yeah. People don't want to sit down and work it out. They're just like, see ya. And I'm guilty about that too.
Right. Too many apps out there, and they're like, there's another fish in the sea. Plenty of fish.
Right. And that's the deal. Or
right.
Us older men are getting to the point where we don't want to deal with it. I got guys that they've lost their wives after 30, 40, 50 years of being married.
Right.
And they actually, a couple of them, they're retired now, but they got on websites and started looking. He's like, man, I went on about 8 or 10 different dates. And he said, I met this lady and went on 2 dates with her. And by the second date, I just wanted to throw up. And there wasn't nothing wrong with the woman. It was just he's so set in his ways with the way he was married that he's too old to learn all that again.
Right.
He's made his compromises so frequently in the however long they were married that it became second nature because he loved her with all of his heart and he respected her with all of his heart.
Right.
So nowadays it's just easier to go, I'll go find somebody else because the first 6 months of meeting somebody is new and exciting. People will take time off just to go through that again.
Right.
Trick is to make it that exciting after years and years.
Yeah.
But I mean, people can, that 6 month thing, when you're just blowing smoke and you're trying to impress and you're not really doing what you're doing. Like, how many, I got to say it. How many people when they're first dating, even after they've been intimate and one goes to spend the night over the other's house, ain't nobody going to be farting in that room. You know what I mean? Ain't nobody going to be, breaking a little wind. I was married for 20 years. That woman never broke wind around me, ever.
Okay.
But she would sit on her kid's head and fart. I don't understand that.
That's funny. That's messed up.
When you get comfortable enough to be able to do that in front of your significant other, that's on the way to saying, hey, I'm so comfortable with you. You're the better part of my life. However you want to say it, you're there.
Right.
So how long were you married?
I was divorced. My divorce was final a month before my 20th.
Okay, so just say 20 years.
You're right.
How long were you dating her before you farted in front of her?
I don't know.
I didn't know it was going to be that much of a thought.
I didn't even think about it.
When Chrissy and I met, we were only together for a month and she got pregnant. 6 months later, we got married.
Right.
So, we were pretty much living together 3 months after we met.
Right.
So yeah, I was all in. Still, the bathroom door has to be closed. There is time when I need my privacy.
Right.
That's the kind of thing I won't do. I won't walk in there when she's doing her business and she knows, and we had that
Right.
respect, that kind of thing.
Right.
And I know these are like silly little stupid things you talk about, but once you start with the respect of the other person, you really have a good respect for them, a good solid base, then everything else will flow. And then if the intimacy is good and they treat you the way you want to be treated and they fill up your cup, this is a great phrase that I heard the other day, that the 5 love languages, your love language might be physical touch, but when you get physical touch, your cup is full, but the other 4 are empty.
Yep.
So now you don't want physical touch anymore. You want quality time. I thought it was a fantastic analogy.
Yeah. No, it
So,
is.
and we all talk about what is your love language? Well, right now it would be whatever, right? But
Right.
when you fill that cup up, the other ones are empty. So now I want some acts of service. And I really
Right.
got to thinking about that. I'm like, how amazing of an analogy is that? And I thought it was really cool.
Right.
But that right there, when you understand your other person's cups, the 5 cups in the love language, you're in love with that person. You respect that person. And you know when this cup's full, you need to fill the other one.
Right.
That's love.
Right.
Not just, walking around like a puppy dog and I'll do the dishes because you don't like doing the dishes, or I'll do the laundry. Those things are insignificant. That's easy stuff. Jay's
So
over here cracking up because I'm just like taking over. But
no, you're good. You're good. I actually did a lookup in the Oxford, dictionary. Love, an intense feeling of deep affection or a great interest and pleasure in something. And yeah, and then that's the noun version of it. That's how they describe it as a noun.
right.
And as a verb, it's feel deep affection for, you know. But it's very interesting because if you feel this deep feeling, this deep affection, this deep emotion, then you naturally will respect and give towards, you want to learn more so you can make them happier,
Right.
and so it ties into everything you were just talking about. You may not have said love for 5 minutes in this discussion, but it all wraps into it.
Right. It
It
does.
really, really does. And too many people. I'm gonna go out a limb and say there are not many people that really understand what true love really feels like anymore.
I so agree. I absolutely agree. We've talked so many times about people being empaths and narcissists and this and all those different chemical imbalances in the brain or the way you were raised or things like that.
Right.
And when somebody comes off cold, they're a narcissist. You know what I mean? When
Right.
somebody's an empath, they're way too sensitive emotionally, they're an
Right.
empath. So I don't actually know where I was going to end up with that. I kind of lost my
But we
train
were
of thought.
talking about people not knowing what
Not,
true love,
yeah,
you know.
and
Yeah.
people grow up in a negative atmosphere. They're never going to let anybody in. They're never going to trust anybody.
Because they haven't felt true love.
Right? But the minute they feel it, they're like, oh, and then they want to give it back, and then that feels better to them because they've never felt it before.
Right.
Once they give back and they get the reciprocation, oh, that's where life goes just beautifully crazy, calm, relaxed, perfectly smooth.
But you know what the
Everything flows.
problem with that is?
What's that?
And a lot of people will tell you this, is that first time they feel love, like they want to give all that they can, because they've never felt it before. They don't know how to handle it, and most of the time it scares them, and they run.
Scares the shit out of them.
And they run.
Or what they'll do when it scares them that bad because they've been in a negative environment their whole life,
Right.
they're like, wow, this was so normal. Something's wrong. I need to create something because this is the way I was raised.
Right, exactly. You
and
got to
it does.
create some drama. Yes.
Right. And there are people out there that freak out, go through that process, and then one day they get a light bulb off and they recognize, hey, wait a minute. This is exactly what I've been wanting. Why am I screwing it up?
Right. But
You know?
sometimes, is it too late?
Yeah.
That's the key. Because
Yeah.
sometimes they don't wake up till it's too late.
Right.
You know, that's a big thing. I mean, that really is. Love is a challenge. Let's just be honest, okay?
Every day. Every day it's a challenge, especially in relationships. Being my age and single, every day is a challenge.
Well, even as a society, we just don't love each other, it seems like, anymore.
Yeah, true.
I mean, that's just my personal view, but when you look at what's going on, people would rather tear somebody down or see them get hurt. You know, a good example is as kids, anytime there's a fight at school, kids just go there and cheer it on.
Right.
Do they
And
try to break
videotape
it
it.
up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do they try to break it up? No. It's more entertaining to videotape it and post it and the way other people can watch it.
Right.
You know? So, you know, and that's where bullying comes in, is it's, you know, tearing you down. If we had more love, you know, parents love their children more. Children would stop looking for negative attention more.
Right.
They wouldn't bully more, you know, and it's just, it's a vicious cycle.
Now, you said that, and it reminded me of the kids. They starve for their parents' attention. And when their parents don't give them positive attention, they'll do something purposely wrong to get in trouble just because at their age, they don't know the difference. But either way, they're getting their attention.
Well, it's positive and negative publicity.
Yeah.
All publicity is good publicity.
That's what
All
saying.
attention is good attention in their eyes.
Yeah. And they're, yeah.
I'm just saying, but you understand.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. But
no.
you understand my point.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. I remember my oldest son, when I walked in the door from work, if we hugged and he was in the room, he would get up and squeeze between us because he wanted the attention.
Right.
You know, and if we ever had like gatherings and barbecues at the house, which we did a lot, we would, if anybody had to go to the grocery store to pick up anything, Josh would want to go with him just because he gets the undivided one-on-one attention for that ride to the corner store and back. And he was notorious for that. You know, he loved it. And we were like, I'd go, hey, to my buddy, I'm like, hey man, run over to the store. We're at a barbecue or something like that. And he'd go, okay. And I'm like, take Josh with you. And Josh would no shoes, nothing, and run and go get in his car. Yeah, he loved that kind of attention. And he craved it. He thrived on it, you know.
Right.
He needed that love back.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that. You know, there are people who struggle with it, you know.
Yes.
So,
especially kids that grew up without a loving family, you know. They grew up in a house where their parents constantly argued and were at each other's throats all the time and complaining about this and complaining about that. It teaches them to be that way.
So, okay, I got
and
a question
second
for
nature.
you.
Go ahead.
Right. I agree with you. Do you think that the way the current status of our society, and especially the divorce rate, because I mean, divorce rate I think is 50% right now. You know, that's
you sure? We need to look that up because I think it's more than that.
Oh,
I think it's more like 80 or 90%. I'm serious. You're talking about weddings from 2000 or 2010. Let's not go back that far. That's 23 years.
Right.
You know,
Right. I know. I know.
just in the
That's
last
it.
23 years, I'll bet you I'll I'll look it up right now.
Okay. He's going to
But
look
I
it
mean,
up, folks. But so okay, here's the whole thing though. Is there divorces left and right? Because of what your point you made, you know, people give up too easily. There's not this true love kind of, um deep affection, tenderness, warmth, the intimacy, all of the above. That seems to be really, it's tough. And there's a lot of different reasons. Both sides are at fault. Let's not sugarcoat that. Let's just be honest. You know, both men and women are at fault on that one. So, but the problem is we teach our children that exact same mentality.
yes,
It's like, well, we're not going to try to make it work. We're not, we just don't love each other. And it's like, well, if you don't love each other, did you ever? Or were you just in it for the convenience?
right. Or
You
the
know,
sex was good.
yeah,
And of course that's, if you don't work on that, then
right.
yes, that's going to get boring.
No, yeah.
But
I
it's
mean, and
it's a constant work on that too. I mean,
right. Yeah. So, it could be the girl was looking for someone to take care of her, and the guy was looking for someone to to give him children, but were they really genuinely looking for each other? That's the difference.
yes,
You got to
she's
look at
looking for
why you're in a relationship. Yeah.
yeah, she's looking for somebody to support her, and he's wanting to get laid.
Or
That's how
even
all
just someone
relationship,
to
and
have
then
his
she gets
kids.
pregnant. Yeah, yeah,
Right. Right. Or maybe he wanted kids and he's like, I haven't found anyone yet, and this girl seems to want to hook up with me, so why not?
right.
Did he really love her though? Or is it just out of convenience? As some of people have been talking about lately, was it transactional?
Yeah.
She got what she
Wow.
wanted, he got what he wanted, but they really weren't in love with each other.
No, and it didn't last.
No, it didn't
She ended up
last.
taking off with the kid. He got hooked with child support. Then he got another
Right.
girl pregnant. That's when you
Right.
just start getting stupid. Okay, here are the stats. You ready?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so according to the USS Census Bureau, they did basically 2.3 million married couples in 2019. The average divorce rate, 37%. So you were really
Okay.
close. But nowadays, it's changed. According to America's Psychological Association, approximately 40 to 50 of first marriages end in divorce. The divorce rate for second marriage is even higher, 60 to 67%.
Oh yeah. If you couldn't do it in your first one, why in the world do you think you're going to make it on your second one?
I know.
Sorry.
And you know
I know
what?
it's harsh.
It's not even that. I got into this conversation a while back with a lady, and
Okay.
I was completely shocked at the reasoning as to why they want to get married. And they're like, Nick,
Okay.
would you ever want to get married? And I'm like, no, I don't want the government involved in my life.
Right.
And they're like, well, what's that? That shows security. I'm like, we're living under the same roof. We're doing the same things. What's the difference in that?
Right.
And she's like, well, and I'm like, the government doesn't need to. I said, what is the upside for a man today to get married? Nothing.
Right.
Nothing. What happens the minute you get married? The BJ stop. Then, all that stuff. I said that as a funny, but,
No, but it's true.
yeah. So all that happens. And then later on, he starts getting resentment. Boom, divorce. She buries the guy financially.
Right.
I mean,
So
don't get me
here's the
wrong. Don't get me wrong. I don't want, if two people are married for 20 years, I don't think it's fair for him to take it all and run or her to take it all and run. You split that
Right.
right down the middle. You split the child support right down the middle, the kids right down the middle, so that nobody is burdened financially.
Right.
So if you get the house, why do you get the house and have my 401k and have to pay child support? Especially when
Right.
I have them more than 50% of the time. Anyway, I went on a rant because that's old school and it's a trigger, and I just,
But it's funny because when you started talking about this, something clicked in my head because, I've been thinking about this too. Do I want to get married again? You know? And I actually thought about, you made a valid point in your comment. And I wonder, for me, I agree with you 100%. I don't want the government in my business.
right.
I've always been about small government. I want them out of my business. I don't want them,
We get to the end of this, I'm gonna change your thought process. I guarantee you. So go ahead.
But coming from my upbringing and my beliefs and my morals, I don't want to get married. I guess the modern way. And you're probably wondering, well, what do I mean by the modern way? I still would like to take my vows in front of God and my family and everything like that.
In a church.
It wouldn't matter, in a church, whatever.
But with a legal, whatever,
No marriage, no.
So no pastor, none of that.
But I could still have a pastor.
Just go through the process at a church.
But just go through the process at a church, but no marriage license.
From the government.
From the government.
Absolutely.
What do I need a marriage license from a government for? I understand and I believe that I should take my vows in front of God and acknowledge that this is my wife that I am taking, like, he takes, the church as his bride or whatever. So I got no problem with that. I just don't want the government in my business anymore, like you said. So I was thinking about that, and I'm like, you know what? I got no problems doing my vows in front of God, but I don't want the government involved.
Yeah, that's what God says,
Right.
Marry, whatever. And we also had that discussion with all this. And I said, I don't have a problem with that.
Right.
And she said, that's the way I was raised. That's the way I want to do it. And I'm like, that you're still not giving me your argument why the government has to be involved.
And I'm
doesn't. Like, and what she said and how she said it, literally just like, okay, now it doesn't necessarily have to be that way, but what do women want in a relationship? Security.
Yes.
And women feel that having your last name is about as secure as they're going to get. So how do they get your last name without, they can go and say, I want my last name changed.
Yes, they can.
To blah, blah, blah. And you still don't even need a marriage license for that.
Exactly.
But I started understanding that I see that. Of course, my big response after that is, okay, you're selling me on getting the government involved if I ever decide to get married again. But, there will be a prenup.
Yeah.
And, of course, they just looked at me like, if you're not taking me for my money, then you don't need it.
Right.
And it doesn't hurt nothing,
So I'm going to tell you this thing. I'm going to tell you this is really interesting because, folks, we are talking about love here, but we're talking about the repercussions of where you think you're in love and where, the way the system is going. We've kind of drifted off a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
But, a little bit. But it's very interesting because I'm just going to bring up a point. In the gay community, we're sitting here talking about we don't want government involved.
Right.
in our lives. Okay, we
Right.
want them. Okay, but the funny thing is in the gay community, that's what they were missing. Okay, they wanted the government to recognize that they were a couple. They're not worried about Christian recognition that they're a couple. They're worried about the government, because what happens is if they get a legal marriage, what happens? They can pass on if they die. They can pass on all their stuff to their spouses. They can, there are all these advantages that you get when you're legally bound.
There you go. There's the
Okay.
there's the key to it right there.
Right.
One and the other. I mean, it's addition to.
Right. And I got no problem with that. I understand that complaint, and that's why it's like, okay, this one doesn't, I know some people it bothers, but this one doesn't bother me. They're getting married in front of government, in front of the state for this reason. Okay, that's their choice. What do I care?
Yeah, exactly.
And I just wanted to make that comment because it's, we talk about love and we talk about all these things, and me and you are talking about, we don't want the government involved in our lives. We don't want the marriage license. And you tell me a good reason why I should get it. Because how do I know the next girl I'm with is really going to truly love me? Or in 5 years, when we have a little fight, she's not going to just be like, you know what, I've just had enough. I'm just bailing out.
Right.
Where's my guarantee?
See, that's what I was thinking for the longest time, is the minute I get that government license, I have no leg to stand on. None.
Right.
Like
right.
that coworker of mine was married for 20 years. He left, the lady left everything. He met a girl, 30 days later he married her. 30 days later she divorced him and got half the equity in his home.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
What judge on this planet thinks that woman, 60 days of dating him, deserves half the equity in that house?
Yeah, she doesn't. I know.
She doesn't.
It's ridiculous. Right.
It should have been
a female judge who's a feminist.
I didn't, one way or the other, he or she. It doesn't matter what
you know what I mean, though. It's like, that's stupid.
It is.
Therein lies
ridiculous.
The problem. Yes, exactly. That is the problem with our current system. And people wonder why men don't go out there and aren't looking for women to get married to, because of that crap right there. Okay.
Yes.
Because they don't know if a woman is truly in love with them. Okay. And we talk about it all the time. There are people who love their dogs.
Yep.
I've met people who love their dogs more than they do humans.
I know people like that too.
So, but it's like, really, even on the dating sites, they talk about, I've got 4 fur babies. Okay, you have 4 dogs. That's fine. And they talk. I treat them like my kids, and it's like, okay. Those are always my tough ones, because in most scenarios, a lot of times, women will put children before they put spouses.
Yes.
Not saying that guys don't do it too. I'm just saying that it happens. Okay.
Right.
If you treat your dogs like your children, does that mean you're going to put your dogs before your spouse?
I'm sure there are people that do it.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where's the love in that? I mean, have we ever been in a situation where we treated our spouse like our dog treats us?
Wow. That's a great question, because the first thing that comes to my mind is loyalty. You got a dog, that dog is fiercely loyal. All of them.
Right. Okay. Well, what happens when you leave the house and you get home?
And the dog chews your shoes up?
No. They are like at the door because they are
Oh,
ready to meet you. They want to give you all the attention. They missed you. They love you.
right.
Do we get that?
No,
Do we give that?
no.
Maybe we should.
How do you do that? That's a great
Yeah.
question. That's one of the things I want to talk about is how do you, in my crazy life with all this dating and past wives and I've been married
Right.
twice. So does that mean my third one it's a 99% chance fail rate, with what this statistic says? I mean, it's the truth.
No,
It
no,
doesn't go. Does it say
it's
anything
not
about
funny, but
third
it's
marriages?
funny. Okay, yeah. So yeah, no,
And what about
it's
fourth and
harsh.
fifth and sixth? At that point, that's just. But
I actually
no,
went on 2 dates with a girl who had actually been divorced 3 times.
yeah. So
Yeah,
they're codependents.
insanely codependent.
Well,
Yes. Oh my goodness,
you
this
know,
was
I don't know if there's
she.
nothing wrong with being codependent, unless you become insanely. I've never had anybody stalk me, like coming to my house in the middle of the night, or
Right, right.
stalking my Facebook page, or trying to hack into my email. But I wanted to get back to a point where you said that. How do we make that when they walk in the door? We come running up to them and we're wagging our tail and we're doing just like a dog. How do we do that? If one person's doing it, the other one's not, then there's going to be resentment, and then that's where that's going to fall apart. How do you
Yes.
work with a partner that you love to try to love each other better? You're going to
Right,
have bad days. I get that.
right,
But first
right,
off, your partner has to be undivided you. You are number one priority. You, him, her, however. Her, him,
right.
him.
Happy
You,
house, happy spouse, happy house.
right. Once you get past that, then every day is, you never know. One of us might have a bad day and the other one doesn't know it till you walk in the door.
Right.
So if we both have bad days, who's going to step up? You know, how does that work? That's where people have a hard time, even though they do love each other. But we're also taught to have self-preservation, right?
Right,
We need to be
right,
successful. We need to work hard for ourselves. We need to achieve. We need to grow. We need to challenge ourselves. Blah 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 blah. Me 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 me. And when you get
right.
into that state, it's hard to say, okay, you are now my number one priority. But then there are people that go, oh no, I can't make you happy unless I'm happy first. Well, okay. So
Right.
you need to make yourself happy so that you can make me happy. While you're doing that, I need to make myself happy so I can make you happy. People don't do that no more. That's too much work. You know what I mean? They're like, screw that. You have a bad
Well, but
day,
okay,
go eat you some
okay.
ice cream or get you a glass of wine. You know,
Right, right. Okay, so here's a good point. Okay, and you're right. That is a good example. If both people have bad Mondays. Okay,
right?
you know, if you truly love someone, okay, you're gonna come home and you're going to be, as soon as you get home, if they walk up and like, look, I've had a rough day, then you need to make a conscious decision. And this is the challenge. This is the hard part.
Right.
Conscious decision is say, honey, I really love you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for meeting me at the door. You need to turn it around. You need to be the dog that's wagging the tail, who's thankful to be at home with the person you're with. Then, when you see a smile on their face, say, I've had a rough day too. Why don't we go grab dinner? Because what's the point? If we both had rough days, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What do you do as a couple to bring happiness out of both of you? Is it a special restaurant? I remember watching a skit one time where somebody talked about some of the things you can do to get over Mondays. Wear your favorite clothes on Mondays. because you're
Right.
happy, you're comfortable, it puts you in a good mood. There are certain things. If you pack a lunch, or there's a restaurant that you really, really love, eat it on Mondays.
Right.
Those are the types of things you can do to make your Mondays more bearable. Because if you do those types of things, when you get home, you're going to be less stressed. You're going to be, and then that way, you're going to have an easier time to be able, because here's the whole thing. If you had a wife that stayed at home all day and she doesn't work, you can't expect her to greet you at the door every day like a puppy dog and just wag her tail and just be all okay.
So true.
She's going to have rough days too.
Yes.
So what you need to do is recognize that if she's not at the door greeting you and helping you out and handing you a beer, maybe it's your turn to go grab her a drink or something, or go down to Starbucks and buy her a coffee and treat her. It's your turn to run up and, you know what I mean, though?
No, I have a scenario, a true life scenario when I was
Okay.
married.
Okay, go ahead.
Housewife, 4 kids in the house, drive her crazy. I'd get a call every once in a while. Kids are acting up or whatever, summertime, just total havoc and pandemonium. 4 boys. Okay.
Yeah, chaos. Yeah.
So I always picked up the phone and called and said, "Hey, I'm on my way home. Do I need to stop and pick up anything?" "No, just get here now." Click. Or I love you, and hang up, right?
Right.
Pull up in the driveway, open the front door. She's standing there, dressed to the nines, purse on her arm like old school lady, keys in the other hand, full makeup, perfect hair, kisses me on the cheek and says, "I'm going out." I'm like, "Where are you going?" "I don't care." And just out the door she went. Dinner's on the table. Clean the kitchen up when you're done. Out the door she went. And she'd go for it. She'd come home with bags of stuff from Walmart. She'd go to Walmart, and that was her social hour. Because she'd probably text 3 or 4 of her friends, and they would literally just walk around Walmart in a grocery aisle and do what they need to do to de-stress. Right. I thought that was awesome. Now, if she'd have been going to a bar, yeah, I might have a little bit of issue with that.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, Christy wasn't a bar hop. She didn't even like ever going, So.
Right.
But yeah, that's what she would do. She'd be standing right there. "All right, you need to take these Rugrats and do something with them. I'm out."
Yeah.
See ya.
Right.
So that was a good analogy for,
Right.
I need a timeout. I'm had a bad day. All right. Spend all your money, not mine.
Did you smack her on the butt on the way out?
Maybe not all the time. I don't even remember if I did that now.
Okay. I was just curious because, that's something probably you do when you're in that first 6 months. Yeah.
Gave her a little bit of a smile like, "Ooh," and then out the door.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. That probably would have worked. I have to remember that one.
Yeah. But I mean, if you think about it, that's something that you do a lot in your first 6 months, a year or whatever is, you have you're very playful.
Right.
Smack them on the butts, different things like that. And that's what you've got to do is every once in a while, it's like, act like you're still in the first 6 months. Smack them on the butt, be a little silly, walk up and lick them on the cheek, something, something like that.
There's nothing better. There's nothing better than a woman at the stove cooking and coming up behind her, and not being crass or brass or anything like that, talking about
exactly
coming up behind her, just touch her on her shoulders, kiss her on the back of the neck, or wrap your arms around her, maybe even get a little booby, but not groping, just to
you're not trying to be sexual as much as you're trying to be sensual.
Yeah, and lovable. Just, hey, I know you're here, you're cooking. If you're tired of cooking, get out of the way because I'll do it because I love to be in the kitchen. But yeah, those little things, they need to happen forever.
Right.
They really need to happen forever. And we all get complacent, and then all of a sudden you give her a smack, and then she's like, and then she gets mad about it. "Ow, that hurts. That's too hard." That kind of stuff. Then it gets complacent. Then when you get complacent, you don't sit down and have your communications. You don't talk about things. Love is all about taking the time to understand your better half. Period.
Right. Right.
You know when they're in
And
a bad mood.
love.
You know they're
Well, I was going to say, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but love is about emotional security.
yes, very much so.
You know, you have to be emotionally secure and comfortable to open up. And when you can do that, things tend to work a little better.
Yeah.
You know, you have a better relationship, but it's got to go both ways. You can't, emotional security isn't, I tell you how I'm feeling and then you turn it against me 2 weeks from now.
Right.
Because here's the whole thing. That's not emotional security. That just means I ain't telling you shit in the future.
Right. Because you're like, okay, well, I'm not going to talk to you anymore.
Right.
And then you don't say, and then you get that barrage. And that's the thing that drives me crazy. And I've called it on the podcast multiple times, slinging mud.
Right.
Man, you start putting down the person that you love the most, you're already going downhill. You're out.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
you start putting them down or yelling at them for doing something that was a total accident,
Yes. Right.
And there are so many
Right.
situations that I think back that if I'd have just handled it differently, it would have been just fine.
Right.
But because of the way I handled it, maybe there
Right.
wasn't a respect there, so I was snarky and smart mouth.
Right.
I was given too much and they weren't giving back, and it wasn't their fault. It was my fault for giving more than I should normally give. Then I
Right.
resent them for it. And then
Right.
I start
But
with the snarky comments and I stop showing them the attention. And that's what I'm talking about. Is the reason I brought this up and wanted to talk about the meaning of love is you really got to take the time. Is this a person I want to spend the rest of my life with? Yes. Okay. Every day,
right.
work on it every single day and never stop.
Right.
Never
Right.
stop.
Right. Because here's the whole thing. Okay. And I'm going to go back to everyone's favorite topic, your pet dog. So if a dog is 15 years old, do you stop loving it?
No, never.
If he poops on the floor, do you like get all mad at him and yell at him and scream and do whatever?
Now, there are people that do, but
Okay.
for the most part, I see where you're going with this. Yet, no, you do not yell and scream and holler and kick your dog. You might rub their nose
Right.
in it and teach them to do it again, but that's old
Right.
school there too.
Right, but okay, then what, 20 minutes later they lick you in the face and you're like, "Oh, it's okay. I know. It was just an accident."
Dogs don't have germs. Remember that for years and decades.
Yeah. But
And
you
yet
know
they
what
do.
I'm saying? It's why is it that we will treat a dog differently than our spouse, or even better than our spouse? Is it really? I mean, what's the difference there? The dog has unconditional love to you. Do you have unconditional love to the dog? And here's the whole thing. Are you really in a true relationship if you don't do the same for your spouse?
Ooh, great question. I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. If you don't do that for your spouse, then there's the love isn't as strong as you thought it was, and that's where divorces end up.
Right.
But
Right.
how I think the question that I have going forward with that is, what are the things that we need to do on a daily basis?
Right.
Because us men are stupid. We are. We are stupid. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, whatever the story is on that book that I've read twice. I can't even remember the name.
Right.
We're stupid. Okay. And we don't understand until we teach each other she's not going to get me and I'm not going to get her.
Right.
If it's really skewed. It's harder to work on, but every day you have to do that.
Right. Well,
Because
and
I've said things to people, and it was like, to me, in my thought process, it was just like, haha, funny, funny, joke, joke. But it tore them up inside.
right.
And instead of coming to me and saying, hey, what you said really offended me or hurt my feelings, they just held it in and held it in and held it in. Next thing you know, they're cheating. And they go, it's all your fault because you said this and you did that. So how the whole thing got started. And then I'm like, what am I doing to be on the ass end of the cheating realm when I was in love with this person? You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Exactly.
So
But see,
how do
okay,
I? Yeah, go ahead.
no, go ahead. I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt.
no, that was it. That was it. Go ahead.
Yeah, but you made a valid point there, though, because a lot of people, they don't know how to communicate their issues very well. So they have a tendency to bottle them up, like you said.
Right.
They try to, um, I don't know if it's a self deal or whatever, but it's just they close up, okay?
Right.
And what it does is it eats at them. It's like everything that you do, if you just bottle it up and you never let something out, it's going to explode. Let's
Yes.
just be honest. It happens all the time, and people just don't learn. You have to talk about these things. You have to get it out of your system. You have to let it go. Because,
Often.
yes, and we're all guilty of it. I've done it too. Sometimes I will self internalize an issue. That's what I was looking for. Self internalize the issue.
Right.
Good word for that. And,
Good.
but yeah, we need to stop, especially if you're in a relationship, self internalizing. You're in a relationship. They're there because they love you. And if you express what's going on and they leave, then they really truly never loved you in the first place.
True.
Let's just be honest. You should always be honest with yourself and the people you're with. Stop self eternalizing. Don't let it blow up. Address the situation. Sort of like, they preach all the time. We talk about it too. You don't go to bed angry. And the reason they say that isn't because they mean truly, it's a figure of speech, but there's some validity to it.
Right.
When you go to bed angry, especially with somebody like me and you and a couple of our friends, we don't sleep very well because our mind constantly goes.
Oh my God. Did it last night,
Yes.
by the way.
Yeah. And so our mind is constantly going, constantly going, constantly going. You know what? And that constantly going, if you're in an argument, you just get more and more angry at the situation. You really don't address the issue so you can put it behind you so then you can relax your mind.
True. Very true. Because the
Right. And so
argument
when you
turns into name calling, slinging mud, bringing up past issues, and
right,
that doesn't do anybody any good.
right. And unless it's resolved, you're going to focus on, I can't believe they said that last night. I can't believe they said this last night. I can't believe they called me this last night.
Right.
You're going to focus on that all night long, and you're going to self internalize, and you're going to and it's going to build up. It's going to build up. And you know what? The next night, it's just going to keep building up. It's going to keep building up. And then she's going to say something wrong, and you're just going to blow up, and you're slinging mud all over again
Yep. Absolutely.
because you didn't address the issue.
Been
So,
there, done that, buddy.
I know. We
I
all
have
have.
been there. I'm not even going to lie about that. I've been there and done that multiple times. That's why
Right.
now it's such a big deal to figure out how to do it.
Yes. Right.
If
But
and
if you
when.
love, go ahead.
No. I was just saying, being in a relationship or not in a relationship or whatever, I want to know ahead of time. And you and I have even talked about that on our podcast. Is I'm looking for somebody that's willing to work and say they're half of the solution.
Yeah.
You could say half the problem, but I don't want to be negative. I want to be positive. You are half of the solution in this relationship.
Yes.
So You're going to make mistakes, and so am I. You need to be able to address and stand up and say, yes, that was my fault, or that was partially, I did that
Right.
and I shouldn't have. You don't even have to
Well,
apologize. Some people can't even
well,
do that.
right. Okay. So let's make it not negative, and let's just state the fact.
Okay.
Everyone will have problems in their relationships. Doesn't matter whose fault it is. Doesn't matter anything else. Everyone will have problems. But I loved your point. You both have to be part of the solution,
Yes.
because not all problems are even problems with you too. Sometimes they're problems that come from outside, but both of you need to be part of the solution.
Yes.
So I love the way you put that. That was a great way, because if you love each other, you're both going to figure it out together and try to find a way together to address the issue together.
I mean, honestly,
So
how could anybody get mad at me? I don't ever do anything wrong. I'm
so
flawless. Shit. You kidding me? But I mean, you could have the worst day at work. I mean, today was a rough day for me. I feel like I didn't get anything done. I had major problems going on. It was very frustrating. At the end of the day, I was just looking forward to come home and doing this podcast. And if I walked in the door and I was living with somebody or married, and I came in kind of pissy, and she had ongoing issues from something that happened the day before, or I did, and she said something trying to be nice, and I took it as snarky,
right,
that it's on. You're
right,
both in a bad. That's the one thing that I want to figure out. How do you handle that? You're already in a state emotionally, mentally, kind of tore down. You had a rough day, and if they did too, how do you? And I think there are couples in this world that have lasted 30, 40, 50 years. When they realize that, when they both get in the house at the same time and they both realize they're both in pissy moods, they separate. One
right,
goes in one room, one goes in the other,
right,
until they come down or calm down, and then they go to bed and they're not angry
right,
or upset. They calm down. Then
right.
maybe they get a
Well,
chance to talk about it. I've seen people do that.
yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And one of the things I've done is, like, it seems like we're both unhappy. Let's just go out to eat. Let's go to a good restaurant that we both enjoy, because when you get a comfort food, you have a tendency to get in a better mood,
Yeah.
right? And not to say but when you're a foodie, comfort foods are
See,
really
now
important.
there's the ticket right there, being a foodie, because all I heard was, yeah, you're in a bad mood. I'm in a bad mood. Let's go to a restaurant and fight in front of everybody.
See, and that's different. See, I think, when you, at least in the relationships I've had, you have a tendency to be more respectful in public, and you won't fight in public. And then so, then you eat some food and it's like, oh, this was really good,
True.
and then it's just like, hey, do you want dessert? And then it's like, okay, then you start to, it's almost like counting to 10, because you walked away from the house, you're counting to 10 at a restaurant, and then you're coming back to the house after you've got food and you've relaxed a little bit,
See, I like my analogy that I'm fixing to tell you a whole lot better, and I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
Whenever we walk in the door and we're both in bad moods, and the second one sentence comes out that's an argument, off with the clothes. Everybody gets naked. You can't fight when you're naked. I mean, you're staring at the love of your life, smoking hot, and she's standing there naked. How pissed off can you be? I swear to God. Honest to God, can you? All I'd want to do is fall to my knees and go kiss her around the belly button and go, I'm so sorry. It was all my fault. You know what I mean?
I know. It's funny you say that, because they actually, what was it? It's How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah.
That was actually an episode of How You Met Your Mother, because it was literally like he was dating a girl and they were like, yeah, we never fight. And they were like, you never fight? And yeah, we never fight. And so they show a scene where she, like, does, I think she washed his underwear, turned it pink. And, he's like, how could you do that? She starts unbuttoning the top of her shirt. She rips open her shirt, and he's just like, oh, that's it. You know, they go run off to the bedroom, and that's it. He forgot about it. That's it. They're done. You know, it's like
You gotta love it.
and so he does something to her, and she's like, I can't believe you. And he's just like, he starts taking off his shirt, and she's like, but you know, this ain't gonna work on me. And then he kisses her on the neck, and it's just like, okay, and, you know, they run over to the bedroom. You know, so it's funny as hell. Yeah, exactly. So
See, and that's the one thing that women should covet about us men. We are so easy because
right.
there's that right there will shut us up in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat.
I know.
I mean, if you're in love with somebody and that intimacy is what us men crave, and you know, maybe it's been a few days, a few weeks, whatever, you know, life gets rough and she
Right.
throws down like that, oh, whatever I was pissed off about is gone.
Right.
You know.
Exactly.
So
I can't believe you spent $300 at Amazon. I'm sorry, honey. I'm just kidding.
here's three more $100. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I know, right? Exactly.
You're the best.
I know, right? Exactly.
That reminds me of that TikTok where he says, the things you need to do to make a woman happy, you need to love her, cherish her, send her roses, you know, do this, do that, do this, do that, do, go, do. And for men, show up naked and bring food.
Yeah, there you go.
I love that
Exactly.
TikTok. I love that was TikTok. And that was from a
accurate.
pastor.
Yeah. I think it was a female pastor that did that one, wasn't it?
Oh, there might have been, but the one I was a male pastor. He was on the altar, and that's what he said.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
that's funny.
Whatever, you know.
Yeah. So, well, no, dude, it's there's no way we can cover all the, and we get sidetracked because when you're talking about love, it really is easy to get sidetracked on all these other things.
But all those other things are part of it. It's
it is.
Makes you love somebody that much harder or that much less, right?
Right.
All of those things.
Right. And, you know, but yeah, so there's no way we can cover. I mean,
no way.
Most people can't cover love in a lifetime. So, you know,
absolutely.
How are we supposed to cover it in an hour show? So let's just be honest.
So, for love, you want to make me love you? Show up naked and bring food.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Dang.
Being silly, just being silly.
No, you're not. Anyway.
Right there, buddy. Ladies and gentlemen, JayTalk.
There you go. So, but no, it's funny we talk about this, but think about, I want to leave everybody with the one thought. Okay. Do you treat your spouse as good as you do your pet, your cat, your dog? You know, because if you don't, really, why?
That should be the number one thing you covet the most.
Yes.
Is your spouse.
Yep.
Then your dogs, cats, cars, houses, ranch, whatever you're focusing life on.
Right. You know, and you know, in the Christian world, you've got God, but then you've got your spouse. Yep. There should be no one else in front of your spouse but God. So, you know, it's,
I got to remember
depending
that.
on, you know, depending on your belief system, I'm just saying.
Right.
But honestly, yeah, spouse should be number one or number two, depending on your religious belief.
Right. You're right.
Yeah, you know, and that's the way it should be. And if it's not that way, you need to get it that way.
Get on the bandwagon.
Exactly.
Love that spouse of yours. Take the time to just look at them and say, you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. My day is so much better. I had a bad day. My day is so much better now that I get to see your face.
Exactly. And, you know, if more people actually treated their spouses better than their pets, I bet you there'd be a lot less people coming home upset. Because if they had a bad day, they knew they were coming home to a good night.
Right. Absolutely. As long as that person that they're coming home to accepts that love. Some people don't do that either. But, you know, I don't want to end that
But it's
off with
got
a
to,
negative, but yeah, if you do the
yeah,
positive things are going to come back at you.
exactly.
So
Exactly. So that was my last comment of the show. Any final thoughts from you, man?
that was it. We did it. We did the final thought.
Oh, okay.
And I only have one more thing to say, and you know what? That's always going to be at the end of our podcast. I love you, brother.
I love you too, man. I love you too. And of course, we love our fans.
Amen.
So, that's it. We're wrapping it up, and keep on listening and keep on following.